On the same blog post, Whitney Dafoe highlights another problem with ME research at the NIH. He writes, part of the problem is systemic to the grant process. Researchers who publish papers get notoriety and have an easier time getting grants and further funding to publish more papers. So the system encourages research to publication rather than research into big picture thinking and goals. Also, when researchers can't get grants, they move on to other subjects where they can get grants. So by not funding the best research, NIH is not only sabotaging their work and our chance at getting better, but they are also pushing good researchers away from the MECFS field. So, to summarize, the NIH voted not to invite Ron Davies to its last annual meeting about ME. It spends what little money it has for ME research on studies that will produce papers but won't produce anything that actually benefits patients. And due to flaws with the grant process, it pushes good researchers away from studying ME. In other words, the interest is there, the money is there, and there are plenty of researchers who want to study ME, but frankly, the NIH cares more about research papers than it does human lives. So all the research that it could be doing doesn't end up getting done. And the NIH can disagree with me and claim that it does care about human lives. I actually don't doubt that there are plenty of people who work there who care a lot and who want to help other people, but they're working from within a system that is profoundly broken, and I have been failed by it. Every day I am failed by it, and so is everyone else who is sick with a disease that the NIH chooses to underfund. You know, I would describe myself as an optimist. I have this weird sunny disposition inherent to myself that somehow lets me stay cheerful even in adverse circumstances, and it will never fucking let me die. So when I think about the NIH, I get so angry because I look at it and all I can see is all of the good that it could be doing. It has so much money and it's fucking wasting it. I've described how it handles funding ME research, but it makes me think, what else is the NIH ruining? How many lives have been taken by so many diseases that could have been saved if the NIH had just got its shit together years ago? How many people are alive and suffering right now because of it? What incredible strides could have been made in the world of medicine if research was just properly funded? But not everyone is as much of an optimist as me. There is another problem that affects medical research funding, and it pertains to how pessimism colours the grant process. When it comes to certain diseases, ones where drinking or smoking or being overweight increase your risk of getting them, they often come hand in hand with a preconceived notion that it's partly the patient's own fault for being sick. Sound familiar? In an article by Johnson discussing NIH funding priorities, Claiborne Johnston, dean of the Dell Medical School in Austin, Texas, in discussing chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, often caused by smoking, and liver disease, often caused by drinking, states, "We tend to underfund things where we blame the victim." A number of diseases that are more common in women fall into this category. As pointed out by Dewsbury, endometriosis, one of the most underfunded female-dominant diseases, was stereotyped as being brought on by women's life choices. ME, also one of the most underfunded female-dominant diseases, was incorrectly deemed psychogenic and stigmatized for decades. In the case of multiple sclerosis, which affects predominantly women, it took until the 12th century to not be viewed as caused by hysteria. Even now, its funding level is less than commensurate with its disease burden. Wait, sorry. Oh my god, it happened again. This isn't a quote from my script. This is another quote from research hosted on the NIH's website. So yeah, that's why ME research isn't getting funded. What a horrible story, honestly. Sincerely, I'm sorry that I had to share it with you. Learning that an institution that is so big, so rich, and so important is fucking up its research spending this badly, it really shakes your faith in humanity, you know? One silver lining for me, at least, is that this isn't like 2 episodes ago where I had to be careful about what I said. The NIH is an American organization, and I am a UK citizen, so I feel like I won't get in trouble if I say what I'm feeling this time. So, in my opinion, fuck the National Institutes of Health. I think that in its current form, it is a blight on humanity. One of the reasons why I am clinging onto life, despite being so horrifically ill and with no treatment, is so that I can one day experience the delicious catharsis and schadenfreude of getting to see the NIH as an institution be publicly shamed when the truth comes to light. Whitney Dafoe, in the blog post I was talking about earlier, compared the NIH to the Emperor from the fable The Emperor's New Clothes. Maybe Google that story if you aren't familiar. It's a really good metaphor. And Whitney is so smart for making this comparison. I couldn't agree with him more. What the NIH is doing is a charade. They do just enough to make it look like they care, when in reality they are ruining lives through their neglect, mostly women's lives, mostly people of color's lives. We must look beyond their fictitious clothes and see the reality underneath them. The truth about the NIH is hiding in plain sight, and it's this. When you underfund research into poorly understood diseases, you stop the entire field of medicine from moving forward. You hold back humanity. When you discourage experimental thinking and hypothesis testing in your research, mystery diseases remain a mystery, and you condemn people to suffer from them. When you turn well-meaning researchers away, you admit that we aren't smart enough or creative enough or dedicated enough to solve this problem, but we are. People are smart and creative and dedicated, and we can solve every medical mystery that comes our way. If we don't, then patients are put at even more risk because sooner or later, someone will notice the gap in our knowledge and step into it with the supposed answers we've been looking for, but they might not have patients' best interests at heart. Anyways, completely unrelated to that last thing that I just said. Next episode, we're going to be looking at the PACE trial. Maybe take a break and take a few deep breaths first, though, because if you're feeling angry now, I'm afraid you're about to get a lot angrier.